Welcome back, Superstar, to How to Create a Zoom Webinar That Sells, Part 6, Crafting Your Offer. In this video, I'm going to dive into how to put together a very compelling, juicy offer that's going to be appealing to the people that you are trying to sell to. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see people making with webinars is not having a really clear, compelling offer. I know for myself, whenever I did a webinar early days, I would focus so much on the content of the webinar itself, and then I would leave the offer till the very end, so I was scrambling at the last minute. So I actually recommend making sure that you give the offer the time, attention, and energy that it absolutely deserves, because this will make or break the success of your webinar. One of the biggest problems that I see with people putting together their offer is that they get really wrapped up in all the details of the offer, all the bells and whistles, all the exact elements that they're putting together, and they try to make the case for the program or the product or the service based on all the things that are in it. And I would say that this is actually the opposite of what you want to do. The structure that I'm going to share with you basically makes sure that you craft and structure your offer the right way. So you can both prepare your offer the way that I'm going to share it with you, and you can present your offer in this way. So the first thing that I want to drill into your head is one of my favorite quotes or lines. I made this up. I'm quoting myself. And it is, sell the promise, not the production. And what I mean by that is, instead of getting wrapped up in all the details of the offer, make sure that front and center you are clear. What is the outcome? What is the promise that you're making? If you do this program, you will get this outcome. If you do the program fully, if you commit fully, right? We don't want to focus on the people that aren't going to do it fully, right? You're making the promise for those people who are going to fully engage and do the work. So for those people, what can you promise? So I'll give you an idea. When I put together my Retreats to Riches course offer, instead of saying, you're going to get 6 modules, you're going to do a module on pricing, you're going to do a module on logistics, so, all the things. I'm not saying you don't talk about that, you do eventually, but I first focused on the promise, which was Retreats to Riches. If you fully implement this, if you follow the way that I've laid this out for you and you do the work fully, you will learn how to create and deliver a profitable retreat with a big back end. You will feel excited, you will feel supported, you will have templates and checklists that you'll be able to use so that you can model your retreats after my retreats. So I'm basically giving them a big picture promise of what the outcome is of them investing in the program. You'll learn how to monetize your retreats. You'll learn how to fill them with grace and ease. You'll learn how to identify who's a right fit, who's not a right fit, right? These are all the promises underneath that big umbrella promise. So what I invite you to consider first, before you even design your course, or if you've already designed it, go back and look at what's the big promise of this offering. What is the outcome they can expect? What kind of life will they lead on the other side of doing this work? And there's certain things you can promise and certain things you can't. You can't promise somebody you'll be making $1 million, but you can promise somebody that they will learn all of the elements of $1 million model, if you have $1 million model, right? So being careful with the language is important, but also not downplaying the value that someone will get from fully implementing the work you do. So that's first and foremost, what's the promise? What's the big outcome of your product? The second thing is going to sound familiar because it's very similar to our content structure. Why, what, who, how, now. You want to lay out the why of why your offer matters, why your program is so good, why your program is so important. So the why, I usually like to, inside of the why, there are a few elements. The first is, what's the problem? What is the problem that people have that your program is the solution to? And what's the problem that people run into when they're trying to implement a solution? right? So for example, with Retreats to Riches, one of the problems is that people don't know how to fill and how to market their retreats. They know exactly what they want to do. They have a vision for what they want to create, but then they have a lot of trouble getting people to commit to their program, right? So whatever that problem is, you want to lay that out so that you can then position your offering as the solution to that problem. The second thing inside of that why is, what is the outcome in their lives? How will their lives look and feel different as a result of having done your program or your service? That's the little why, which I talked about before. And also you want to lay out the big why. What is beyond that? Like in my world, the big why for the Retreats to Riches course is that the world needs more joyful gathering. The world needs people in community doing things together and doing healing and inner work and personal development. And retreats are a great avenue or a great vehicle for this kind of work in the world. And the world needs more people leading these types of events, right? So little why, big why. So you want to lay out the why for your offer. So just like you laid out the why for your whole webinar, you lay out the why for why I created this program, why it's so valuable, why it's so beneficial, without talking about all the details and the bells and whistles of the program. Then you get into what the program is. It's a course, it's an immersion experience, it's an event, it's what is it and what is the outcome of doing the work, the specific strategic outcome. So you've talked about the big outcome of what their life will feel like and how their life will look different. But now we want to talk about what is actually the strategic outcome of the program. So for example, using mine again, the Retreats to Riches course outcome is they will design their own profitable retreat with a big back end. They'll have a 90-day plan. They'll have a launch plan. They'll have clarity on their vision, their strategies, their marketing plan, their price points, their pricing, all of that sort of thing. They'll have clarity on that. So that's the what, right? What are the benefits of doing the program? Then you might want to dive into the who, but in this case, the who is not you anymore because you've already told them who you are throughout the webinar. Now the who is other clients who have purchased the program and what they have to say about it, what their results have been. Not just like, hey, the program was awesome, I'm so glad I did it, but rather, hey, I bought the program and then I did my thing and this is how it came out. So like in my case, when I'm putting their case studies, the who are the case studies, the social proof of people who've implemented my process and who've had great success with it. And before I dive into the how and the now piece, the most juicy parts of your offer, I want to invite you to please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and maybe even throw me a comment below. Okay, we were talking about social proof. We're talking about case studies, testimonials. This is where I highly recommend maybe checking out one of my videos just about how to get a great testimonial from a client. Because I don't want to dive deeply into it here, but it's really important that you not just throw down, really generic sounding testimonials, but that instead you get real results from people. For example, in my Retreats to Riches course, my Retreats to Riches webinar to sell my course, I have examples of people who launched their first retreat and generated, 5 and even 6 figures in revenues from their first retreat. So of course, I want a picture of that person and I want a quote saying like, hey, I launched my first retreat. I had 12 people in it and I generated $55,000 or whatever it is from my first retreat. That is what you want in the who section, is examples of people who've done this. And here's a pro tip for you. Another thing you might consider is actually weaving your social proof throughout the entire offer, not just having it here in this one section. Next comes the how, right? Because we did why, what, who, how. How is where we actually do say, hey, here are the elements of the program. And this is where you might do something that Russell Brunson and maybe a bunch of others call an offer stack. So an offer stack is where you start to stack up the elements of the offer together with the value of each element. So for example, you've seen this on the QVC commercials and infomercials where they're like, okay, you're gonna get this value of this, and then you're gonna get this, and that's a value of this. And not only that, but wait, there's more. You're going to get this thing and it has this value as well. And if you add up the value, it adds up to this huge number, but slash right through it, you're going to get it for this lower number. So I don't suggest doing it quite like that because I think it's obviously pretty cheesy, but you can learn something. Those infomercials are around because they work, right? They actually work because what they're doing is they're stacking the value so that it becomes almost a no-brainer for someone to say, wow, there's so much value here and it's worth so much more than what the price is. And that's what you're going for. So what an offer stack, the way I do it, the way you might want to consider doing it, is having a slide, one unique slide at least, for each element that's in the program. Now I want to take a little break here, time out, to say that one of the problems I see in this part is what I call the kitchen sink strategy, where people just throw in random crap that doesn't actually add much more value. Like for example, I did a telesummit 5 or 6 years ago, and I have like 20 recordings or something like that of me interviewing experts about lifestyle business. Okay, it's valuable, it definitely is, but it's kind of old and it's a lot. It's 20 hours worth of audio. That, if I could throw that in there and say, and you're gonna get my 20 hours worth of audio interviews with experts. Yeah, well, what are the odds that people are actually gonna listen to that? Number one. Number two, people will actually pay more for a compressed solution, meaning that if you can deliver the outcome in the least amount of time and effort. So the kitchen sink strategy, just throwing stuff in that's random because you think that it adds value, actually starts to detract from your offer. My advice is to nail down the 3 or 4 or maybe 5 most valuable elements that will absolutely lead to the outcome, rather than throwing in a bunch of stuff that you're not sure that they'll even listen to or watch. Okay, back to how. So the how is where you stack the offer. You put, each piece of the offer with a value attached. And if there's no value attached, you can explain how you came up with the value of that. Well, like you're going to get an hour of my time. I actually don't sell an hour of my time. There's no dollar value on that, but I sell a day of my time for $15,000. If you divide 15,000 by 8, you get 1,800 and something, I think, right? So the value of my hour is that. You could do it that way, but you have to justify. You can't just throw some huge number on it. You really want to make a case for why that number is true. So that's it for part 6. Meet me on the other side of this video so I'll complete the conversation about crafting and presenting your offer, and I'll even take you through how to price your offer.